Hello, Dark Reader, and welcome to the Dark Side of the Library podcast. I'm your host, Katie, and with me is my co-host, Carrie.
Hello. I apologize for my yucky cold voice.
Today on this episode, we are going to be discussing all of the new nonfiction releases that are coming out February 2024. I'm really excited. I like nonfiction. There's quite a few in here that I'm so tempted by. By the way, we have not read these yet, so we are just presenting these to you because they sound very dark and very cool, especially for any of you that are nonfiction readers. And if you do happen to find any of these enjoyable or you're really curious about it, check out our show notes. They do have affiliate links in the show notes, just so you're aware. So if you do click on one of these items, we do get a small commission. So thank you. All right, Carrie, start us off with our first nonfiction read for February.
I am so excited to chat about a coffee table art book called Alfred Hitchcock Storyboards.
Oh.
It is by Toni Lee Morrill. Comes out February 6th from Titan Books. It's a historical document and celebration of the artwork behind the master of suspense's greatest films. It's the storyboards for Vertigo, The Birds, Psycho, North by Northwest, The 39 Steps, Torn Curtain, Marnie, Shadow of a Doubt, and Spellbound. It has never before published images and text that puts the material in context and examines the role that the pieces played in some of the most unforgettable scenes in cinema. I would be curious to see how they storyboarded the shower scene in Psycho and how that maybe changed when they went to film it. You know, there's always like, oh, she doesn't fit behind this, or, you know, who knows?
Yeah.
So I am a big fan of coffee table books because I throw lots of dinner parties and people come rifle through whatever's on the coffee table. So that's Alfred Hitchcock Storyboards by Toni Lee Morrill.
And I'm really excited for my first book. It is called Clay and Bones, My Life as an FBI Forensic Artist. So the author is Lisa G. Bailey, and this comes out February 20th. This is published by Chicago Review Press. Lisa never considered a career working in death until she saw the FBI job posting for a forensic artist. So the idea of using her artistic skill to help victims of crime was really, really cool to her, so she couldn't pass it up. Soon, she was documenting crime scenes, photographing charred corpses, and digitally retouching the disembodied heads of suicide bombers. Eek, lots. But it was facial approximation, sculpting a face from the remnants of an unidentified victim's skull that intrigued her the most. So Bailey knew that if she could capture that person's likeness in clay, she just might help them be identified, and that might help law enforcement track down their killer. That's so cool. That's a great skill to have. So Bailey worked on hundreds of cases and grew to become a subject matter expert in the field. I've never even heard of an FBI forensic artist before. Like, not in this way where you're sculpting and recreating scenes like that. So it was the most challenging and fulfilling work that she could have imagined, and she never thought of leaving. But her life changed when she became the target of sexual discrimination and harassment, which I swear it always freaking happens. She was stunned when FBI management protected the abusers and retaliated with threats, slander, and an arsenal of lawyers. Jeez.
Oh, jeez.
So she felt trapped in an increasingly hostile work environment and infuriated at the hypocrisy of the FBI's tactics. So Bailey's decided to fight back. And this book, I think, is her fighting back. So if you are curious about this whole field and about sexual discrimination and how the FBI has handled her as an employee, but all the things that she's done and contributed to society in general, check out Clay and Bones. This is by Lisa G. Bailey.
My next book is The Deorhord, and I'll spell that for you later. It's an Old English bestiary, which can also be pronounced bestiary. Either way, I like to say bestiary because it has the word best. It's by Hana Videen, and it's a tour of Old English words for animals. And many of the animals that we encounter in everyday life, from pets and farm animals to the wild creatures of field and forest, have remained the same since medieval times. But the words used to name and describe them have often changed beyond recognition, starting with the Old English word for animal itself, deor, pronounced Deor. It's spelled D-E-O-R. So in the Deorhord, D-E-O-R-H-O-R-D, Hana Videen presents a glittering Old English bestiary of animals real and imaginary, big and small, ordinary and extraordinary, the good, the bad, and the downright baffling. We're going to learn about, pardon my pronunciation mistakes, Ganji Wafrin, otherwise known as walker weavers, spiders.
Oh my God.
Those are spiders. And Hasupadan, or gray-cloaked ones, eagles. To Hifdu Swelsimona, or moonheads. Historians still don't know what animal that is. The Deorhord introduces a world both familiar and strange, where ants could be monsters and panthers could be your friends, where dog-headed men were as real as elephants, and where whales were as sneaky as wolves. The curious stories behind these words provide vivid insights into the language, literature, and lives of those who spoke Old English, the language of Beowulf more than 1,000 years ago. That's the Deorhord, an Old English bestiary by Hana Videen, and the publisher is Princeton University Press.
That sounds very cool. My next book is a biography. This one's kind of wild. It's an interesting analysis on pop culture and horror films, and also Tania de Rosario's life. This is called Dinner on Monster Island. So this came out February 6th, and this is published by Harper Perennial. So it's a memoir of Tania's life and childhood in Singapore, where she discovered how difference is often perceived as deviant, damaged, disobedient, and sometimes even demonic. She pulls back the veil on life on the small island. She reveals the sometimes kind, sometimes monstrous side of all of us. Intertwined with her experiences is an analysis of the role of women in horror. So Tania looks at films and popular culture like Carrie, The Witch, The Ring, to illuminate the ways in which women are often portrayed as monsters, and how in real life monsters are not what we actually think. So it's a very lyrical book. It's got lots of humor and optimism, but lots of really interesting personal examination of one woman's experience grappling with her identity, and a cool analysis of monsters, especially monstrous women, and the worlds that they live in. So this is interesting. It's very unusual, and I really love it. It's called Dinner on Monster Island. This is by Tania de Rozario.
My next book is a serious Gothic literary studies book called Financial Gothic, Monsterized Capitalism in American Gothic Fiction. It's by Amy Bride from the University of Wales Press. It actually came out back in January, but we're going to chat about it anyway. Financial Gothic reads Frankensteinian monsters, haunted houses, vampires, and zombies in American fiction and film as cultural responses to financial phenomena from 1886 to the present day. And I do remember hearing that whenever there's like a financial depression, zombie books get written more. I don't know why.
Oh.
So the study also considers the pre-existing consensus on racial readings of American Gothic fiction and how these interpretations of the slave trade can be expanded upon in conversation with our financial contexts. So this is more of a textbook style book, but we wanted to let you know it's coming out. It's in the literature and fiction, history and criticism part of Amazon. It's Financial Gothic, Monsterized Capitalism in American Gothic Fiction, part of the Gothic Literary Studies series by Amy Bride from University of Wales Press.
This next book I have is very similar as far as it being a scholarly book. This is published by Cambridge University Press. It is folk Gothic, elements in the Gothic. This came out February 1st. It's by Don Keetley. So folk Gothic obviously shares with folk horror its deployment and frequent fabrication of diegetic folklore, which I don't know what that means. I will have to look that up. So folk Gothic does not share. However, folk horrors incarnate monsters its forward impetus across spatial and ontological boundaries, and the shock and repulsion elicited through its bodily violence. So our author argues that the folk Gothic as a literary, televisual, and cinematic formation is defined by particular temporal and spatial structures that serve to forge distinctly non-human stories. So as you can see, this is definitely scholarly. So if you are interested in learning more about what makes folk Gothic versus just regular folk lore, what are those differences? Definitely give this one a go. This is Folk Gothic by Dawn Keetley.
I have already pre-ordered the next book for myself. It's A Mystery of Mysteries, The Death and Life of Edgar Allan Poe. It comes out on Valentine's Day. It's by Mark Dawidziak. It's a brilliant biography of Edgar Allan Poe that examines the renowned author's life through the prism of his mysterious death and its many possible causes. This is going to be a total downer. It's a moment shrouded in horror and mystery. Edgar Allan Poe died on October 7, 1849, at just age 40, in a painful, utterly bizarre manner that could not have been out of place in one of his own tales of terror. What was the cause of his untimely death, and what happened to him during the 3 missing days before he was found, delirious and in great distress on the streets of Baltimore, wearing ill-fitting clothes that were not his own?
Interesting.
Yes.
That's wild.
Poe remains one of the most iconic of American writers, and he died under haunting circumstances that reflect the 2 literary genres he took to new heights. Over the years, there's been a staggering amount of speculation about the cause of death, from rabies and syphilis to suicide, alcoholism, and even murder. But many of these theories are formed on the basis of the caricature we've come to associate with Poe, you know, the gloomy-eyed grandfather of Goth, hunched over a writing desk with a raven perched on one shoulder, drunkenly scribbling his chilling masterpieces, as you do. Mm-hmm. So this author wants to debunk the myths of how he lived, so we can come closer to understanding the real Poe. I am so interested to read this. It's A Mystery of Mysteries, The Death and Life of Edgar Allan Poe by Mark Dawidziak from the publisher St. Martin's Press.
I am really excited for my next book, too. I swear I'm not copying you, Carrie. I feel like I'm echoing everything you're saying a little bit. So this next book is If Love Could Kill, The Myths and Truths of Women Who Commit Violence. This is by Anna Motz, and it came out February 6th. So this is a study by a forensic psychotherapist, and it looks at women who have committed extreme acts of violence and cruelty, and at the underlying oppression and abuse that often is at the heart of these crimes. So, surprise, women can be murderers or child abusers. I don't, so they can commit acts of extreme and sadistic brutality. And those who do are outcast from society and from womanhood entirely. They are seen as monsters and angels of death, and they must be kept at a safe distance. Our author is a renowned clinical and forensic psychologist in London and New York. So she writes with compassion and candor and a clear-eyed perspective. She explores in depth the shockingly under-examined psychological underpinnings of female violence. Far from the heartless and inhuman monsters we might believe them to be, these women are often victims of a culture of violence and emotional trauma. So this is already hailed as a landmark. Motz's daring book, Bursting with Humanity, makes clear that women's violence is more widespread than most realize, that these acts of violence expose deeply held, centuries-old beliefs about women and their value, and that these acts demand to be taken more seriously as a distinctive societal taboo that can and must be brought into light. It actually is kind of interesting how we do tend to very much highlight women who've done really, really all of it's really terrible, but I don't know if it's just because we don't see it as much versus males committing these crimes, so we're like, oh yeah, another male doing a horrible thing. Yeah. But it is kind of interesting how we definitely highlight women who have committed crimes like this. So this is called If Love Could Kill, The Myths and Truths of Women Who Commit Violence. This is by Anna Motz.
My next book is The Secret History of Bigfoot. Field Notes on a North American Monster. It's by John O'Connor. It comes out February 6th from Source Books. It's the portrait of America at its weirdest. They're going to explore the shrouded forests of the Pacific Northwest, where Katie and I live, to off-the-wall cryptozoological conventions. Bigfoot is an instantly recognizable figure. Through the decades, this elusive primate has been featured in movies and books, on coffee mugs, beer koozies, car polish, and CBD oil. Which begs the question, what is it about Bigfoot that's caught hold of our imaginations? John O'Connor is a journalist and self-diagnosed skeptic, and he's fascinated by Sasquatch. Curious to learn more, he embarks on a quest through the North American wilds in search of Bigfoot, its myth and meaning. There's an eccentric cast of characters in the book, and he explores the zany and secretive world of cryptozoology, tracking Bigfoot through ancient folklore to the movie Harry and the Hendersons, while examining the forces behind our ever-widening belief in the supernatural. He's going to trek through the shrouded forests of the Pacific Northwest, listen to first-hand accounts, go to Bigfoot conventions, and all through this he's left wondering what happens when the lines between myth and reality blur. It's The Secret History of Bigfoot by John O'Connor.
I have 2 books that I have to do in a row, so I'm sorry, Carrie, for talking so much.
I'll take a tea break. That's fun. Sip,
Okay.
sip, sip. Yum, yum, yum.
So my first book that I wanted to present is Pax Romana, The Plague That Shook the Roman World. So I have to admit, I am not keen on this other plague. I know that we've had plenty of plagues in human history, but this one, didn't know about. This is by Colin Elliott, and it came out February 6th. This is published by Princeton University Press. So this is a dramatic account of the Antonine Plague, which is the mysterious disease that struck the Roman Empire at its peak. So in the middle of the 2nd century AD, Rome was at its prosperous and powerful apex, or even prosperous. Anyway, the Emperor Marcus Aurelius reigned over a vast territory that stretched from Britain to Egypt, and the Roman-made peace, or Pax Romana, seemed to be permanent. Then, apparently out of nowhere, a sudden sickness struck the legions and laid waste to cities, including Rome itself. This fast-spreading disease, known as the Antonine Plague, may have been history's first pandemic, well, at least written pandemic. Soon after its arrival, the empire began its downward trajectory towards decline and fall. So in this book, historian Colin Elliott offers a comprehensive, wide-ranging account of this pivotal moment in Roman history. So did this single disease, its origins and diagnosis still a mystery, bring Rome to its knees? That's a very interesting question. So Elliott shows that Rome's problems were more insidious than what we may know about. Years before the pandemic, the thin veneer of Roman peace and prosperity had begun to crack. The economy was sluggish, the military found itself bogged down in the Balkans and the Middle East, food insecurity led to riots and mass migration, etc., etc. Lots of stuff was happening, and then we have this plague. So if you are interested in, I guess, plague study or even Roman history, this would be really, really interesting to look into. This is not something that I'm familiar with, so I'm interested. This is Pax Romana, The Plague That Shook the Roman World by Colin Elliott. And then my next book is called The Secret Life of Hidden Places, Concealed Rooms, Clandestine Passageways, and the Curious Minds That Made Them. This comes out February 13th, and it's by Stefan Bachman and April Genevieve Tolcholki. This is published by Workman Publishing Company. So this is a spellbinding tour filled with stories and photos of some of the world's most fascinating architectural mysteries. This wondrous guide for the curious and the intrepid takes readers on a lushly photographed and lyrically written tour of 18 of the world's most captivating mysteries. Delve into both the secretive places themselves and the eccentric and obsessed minds that created them. So you can visit a chamber of skulls high in the Swiss Alps, a Japanese temple full of traps, a Parisian apartment locked and untouched since World War II, that would be scary, a Prohibition-era speakeasy in Washington, D.C., and a spooky, quote, initiation well in Portugal built by a secret society. How far down can you climb before losing your nerve? This sounds really cool. I've never thought about investigating something like this. So this is called The Secret Life of Hidden Places. This is by Stefan Bachman and April Tolcholke.
My final nonfiction book today is adorable. It's called What Would Wednesday Do? Gothic guidance and macabre musings from your favorite Addams Family member. It's unofficial, of course. It's by Iphigenia Jones. The publisher is Ulysses Press. They make lots of fun pop culture books. So this is written by a Wednesday expert in an appropriately sinister style. Its delightfully morbid book is your guide through the shadows of life. You're going to learn, what would Wednesday do, how to navigate unconventional relationships and dreadful family dynamics, find the best outfit for greeting local police officers when they come to inform you of your husband's mysterious demise.
Oh my god.
Defy societal expectations, cultivate a hauntingly fulfilling existence, and find the most effective way to brood in shadowy corners. That's What Would Wednesday Do? Gothic Guidance and Macabre Musings from your favorite Addams Family member by Iphigenia Jones. So adorable.
That's really cute.
So this concludes our dark nonfiction episode for February 2024 here at Dark Side of the Library. Be sure to visit our website for the occasional dark content that we post there. We are at Dark Side of the Library on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram, and we can't wait to chat about more dark books with you. Be sure to check our show notes for Amazon affiliate links so you can buy the books and we'll get a tiny commission. Talk to you in the next episode.